Good afternoon and welcome to the Dibble Institute's February 2023 webinar. I'm Kay Reed. I'm the Executive Director of the webinar, too, and the Executive Director of the Dibble Institute, and I'm thrilled to have you here. Today, we're lucky enough to hear from Kelley Luckett from from Kentucky, talking about her peer-to-peer work on a teen pregnancy prevention grant. But she uses peers teaching high school peers. So I know lots of you are interested in that topic, as am I, and I'm excited to learn more. A couple of housekeeping things. If you can't hear me, read this. If you can't hear me and you get you can't hear us, check your own computer's volumes, log off, log back in, or just call using your phone. We'll be taking questions today in the question box. The chat box is disabled, so please give us your comments and thoughts and questions in the question box. And before I go further, I'd like to know by show of hands. So if you go up to your dashboard, you're able to raise your hand. How many of you, this is your very first Dibble webinar? How many of this is your very first Dibble webinar? Please raise your hands. So people know I give this introduction every single time, and so they always come at like 1:02 so they can skip this, but okay. Well, it's about 10% of you. So for those of you who are new, and we welcome you, and welcome back all of you who have been here before. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years, so obviously there's been times you've slipped in and seen a webinar of ours. Oops, sorry. So Dibble was founded by Charlie and Helen Dibble, the Dibble Institute. And Charlie was my mentor as a child. We talk a lot about mentors and all. And he was a fix-it kind of guy. He saw a problem with young people, and that was they lacked confidence in their long-term relationships. He saw a problem that their lives could be derailed if their parents were in a fraught relationship. He studied the research at the time. This was in the 80s, and he said, you know, I can make a difference on this. We're going to help young people get smart about their love lives. And so today, the Dibble Institute is a national independent nonprofit organization. We're a curriculum publisher. We translate research into practical teaching tools that you, thank you very much, use to reach young people all around the United States and beyond. In just this last fiscal year, the 12 months ending September 30th, 2022, we estimate conservatively that our reach was 119,000 young people. And that's just 1 year's worth of material. So if half those people use them from the year before, and the year before, you could see how it would add up. So when I took out my envelope and my pencil and did a back of the envelope math problem, you find out that if you looked at every business day in the year and divided it into 119,000, you come up with roughly 500 kids a day, teens a day, who are starting to get their instruction in one of our programs. And that's incredible. And it's only because of you in our listening audience and our newsletter audience and our clients and friends who make this happen. And we are immensely grateful for that, for all your efforts. Our mission is empowering young people with evidence-based skills to successfully navigate their intimate relationships. We talk to them about other intimate things. We talk to them about sex. We might talk to them about their hopes and dreams for their future, but seldom do we focus on this really critical part of youth development, which is their own intimate relationships. So it's a niche of ours. We're happy to be in it, and we make sure our programs are easy to use and research-based, which leads me to the three core values. One is research. We're big fans of research. And so I heard once someone say science is just looking for the next truth, right? So if you think at the beginning of the pandemic and they weren't sure how the COVID virus spread, maybe it came in on your hands from your packages, and so we were busy, wiping down our groceries with bleach, and then they found out that was a hypothesis, it wasn't proven. Oh, they found out it was aerosolized, and so we needed to wear masks. So science changes. It's not that it's wrong. I mean, it's wrong in that sense, like you're going down a road and you keep going down the road, but you might turn left, you might turn right. And so the same with our programs. Our programs have just been updated, Love Notes and Relationship Smarts Plus, with the latest in research. So for instance, we change how we think about the success sequence, and we call it the paths to success, because we found out there's more than one way. So we believe in research, we base our programs on research, and we like to have them researched. 46% is one of my favorite statistics. Love Notes has a 46% reduction in pregnancy over after 1 year over people in the control group. And so that's, what wouldn't you do if something got you a better result than by 46%? Anyway, I digress. We're big fans of stable, safe, and nurturing families. And there's lots of ways you can get there. You can get there as a married couple, you can get there as a cohabiting couple, you can get there as a single mom or single dad, you could get there being a grandparent. There's lots of ways to get to stay stable and nurturing. Chances are, and what we see in the data is that it happens most frequently with people who are in committed, long-term, healthy relationships, often marriage, not always, but often. So, but we're big fans because that's the best outcome for kids. That's why I'm in this game, is outcomes for children. And the best way to raise children is in safe, stable, and nurturing families. And finally, you can imagine, we're big fans of relationship education. And we believe that everybody can benefit from relationship education. I have taken relationship education courses. I've given them as wedding presents to my family members who adore them. I'm joking. Anyway, I have a pretty good batting average there. But young people, old people, doesn't matter who you love, doesn't matter your ethnicity or cultural background. We could all use help with relationships, and even if they're great relationships, to make them even better. So we write our materials so they're very inclusive and very adaptive to various cultures. So it's not, relationship education is not just for one kind of person, it's for everybody. So today, as I said, we're lucky to have Kelley Luckett with us from the Louisville YMCA, the YMCA of Greater Louisville. She's the Senior Director of Community Integrated Health. So just when you thought the YMCAs were just all about camp and weight rooms and swimming pools, think again. Kelley has a master's in art therapy. She was brought to the YMCA just to lead the Love Notes programming. They had a TPP grant. She has a background in trauma therapy and youth development. And sounds like, I'm excited to hear this. It sounds like she's doing an amazing job. She's also, if she has time, maybe she can talk about how she's integrating art into Love Notes as part of the draw to come to the classes. So Kelley, there she is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelley, for being here, and I leave it to you.
All right. So I'm so excited to be here, and I'm going to be talking about implementing Love Notes with peer facilitators to increase youth voice and engagement. I think that's why you are all here. And Kate, if we can go to the next slide. Kate did a really great job of introducing myself, introducing me. I don't think that I need to introduce myself again. So I really wanted to start out just a little bit of giving you a background about the YMCA and what our mission and our cause is. So our mission is to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. And our cause is to strengthen the foundation of the community through youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. And I say this because there have been times that people didn't understand how Love Notes fit into our mission or our cause, and I'm going to tell you exactly about that on the next slide. So from our mission, you saw that it builds healthy spirit, mind, and body for all, and I really believe that Love Notes fits in with that very well. We are talking about healthy relationships, and that's part of a healthy mind, spirit, and body. We're also talking about reducing sexual or risky sexual behavior, and so that helps build a healthy body. And the for all piece is really big for us at the YMCA, and so Love Notes being trauma informed, LGBTQ+ inclusive, and building resiliency skills is very important. And then for the cause, strengthening the community through youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility, I feel like that's kind of a given, but Love Notes is definitely a great youth development program, and really helps to strengthen our community as we're implementing it. As Kay said, we did get a 2-year grant from OPA for teen pregnancy prevention, and we chose Love Notes as our evidence-based program. We also are focused on youth voice in our community advisory committee as well, but I'm specifically going to be talking about the youth voice and engagement piece of our implementation plan. So this is just some numbers to show off our impact from the time that we started Love Notes to now. So we've trained 77 facilitators and 28 peer facilitators, and that's really what we're going to talk about today. And in total, 833 youth and young adults from West Louisville and Southwest Louisville were touched by Love Notes so far. Okay. So we're going to talk about our peer facilitation model, and this is something that I'm super excited to share with all of you all, and cannot wait to really share this piece of how we've been engaging our youth. My YMCA is located in West Louisville, and we are positioned only a couple of blocks from our neighborhood school. We've had a great relationship with the school for years, and it really helped us to grow our Love Notes imprint and our impact. We had a unique opportunity because they have a teaching and learning magnet. And so this teaching and learning magnet is really trying to help youth learn about teaching and what they can do with that degree once they, or with those skills once they've learned and graduated college, hopefully in this career path. So one of the teachers was really interested in helping them learn more about youth development as a career path, and also about other career paths that they might hold. They also needed field experience hours for their graduation, and so each of them had to get a certain number of hours of field experience teaching in a classroom or in a setting in order to graduate from this program. And so we got together and we were like, well, I believe Love Notes would be a great way for them to get these field experience hours, because we could train the seniors to be facilitators. And so that's kind of how the partnership started. Next slide. So like I said, the seniors are trained as facilitators in Love Notes. We also give them a couple of other trainings. We're really lucky because they've been being trained on facilitation and teaching for 4 years at this point. However, we also try to give them a little bit of youth development background, because youth development is a little bit different than teaching. We also try to give them some trauma-informed background. Of course, we know that that can be a whole another degree, so we're not going into it a lot, but we try to give them some experience or some teaching on that. And then we also talk about facilitation versus teaching. So the peer facilitators are then paired with adult facilitators. So this is a really important part of the program. We know that Love Notes deals with a lot of tough topics, and so we wouldn't want them to go into a teaching situation or an educating situation where they didn't have backup and didn't have somebody who could help them if they were to get stuck, or if something came up that was a little too much for them to take on at the time. And so these seniors who are peer facilitators then go into freshman health classes within the school and facilitate to the freshmen. So that's kind of the model in a nutshell. And so Kay is going to play this video, but it's basically an impact story from one of our peer facilitators, and she does a much better job at describing how peer facilitating has impacted her than I could ever do. So I hope this works, fingers crossed.
Taken my community and made it a stronger place. Kelley from Love Notes, she works at the YMCA. She came to Central to facilitate a class on Love Notes, and I thought it was pretty interesting, so I joined. Originally, my teacher brought it up to us, and she was like, hey guys, we're going to start a program. It's called Love Notes. They're just going to, teach you a few concepts. And I was like, no, I don't think I want to do it. And she was like, come on, just give it a try, new opportunities. So as time went on and they taught us more lessons, and that's when I got super, super engaged. I would start sharing out more. And then I was like, this is something that I want to do. This is something that I can teach to my peers. And especially when you're really passionate about it, it's cake. In Love Notes, Dangerous Loves means just, understanding those red flags and understanding that people do come with baggage. Love Notes helps because it builds a safe community where everyone can share their experiences. Just being a young kid, you think you know everything about love. You think that you have experienced love, and being in a relationship.
Sorry about that, I forgot to unmute again. I hope everybody got to see that and got to hear Dea speak about her participation as a peer facilitator. And I wanted to kind of shift to the benefits of peer facilitation, not just for the peers in the program, but also the youth in the program. And so I'll start a little bit with the youth in the program. And so what we've seen is that having their peers facilitate has really decreased the barriers to learning that we might have otherwise if it had just been an adult. And it does that because they easily trust their peers in a much different way than they trust us adults. Sorry for the adults out there, but they do. It's easier for them to build rapport with their peers, and there's just increased learning and participation because of this. We also find that the peers are able to say things in a way that they can hear them in a different way. So they're able to use the slang and the terms that the youth are using that we may not even understand or know at this point. It really creates a spontaneous atmosphere, and I really struggled with how to word this, but basically it feels less like a classroom when the youth are actually the facilitators and the peer facilitators than it does when the adults are. This also models self-confidence and efficacy. So basically, the peer facilitators are modeling self-confidence and self-efficacy to the youth. And so they're able to see peers in these leadership roles, and they might say to themselves, this is something that I would like to do. This is something that I could do today, not necessarily a goal for 5 years in the future, but a goal for themselves right now. And so that is the kind of stuff that we're seeing with the youth in the program. Next slide. So the benefits for the peer facilitator, we find that they're really invested in the program. they learn the material on a much, much deeper level than they did as a youth in the program. And so they are really, really invested, and they want to share it with as many youth as they can. They become recruiters for the program. They become the ones that the youth look to. And I know our teacher that we work with and very closely at the high school, she was saying that the youth would come down the halls and ask her, when are we having Love Notes next? When is Dea coming to our classroom next? And so they're really, the peer facilitators are really invested. It's an active learning style and a leadership opportunity for them. They're also building real life skills that are transferable. So even if they do not go into teaching or peer educating or youth development or any kind of parallel role in the future, the skills that they're learning are still transferable to other jobs. They have problem solving skills, they're getting the field experience, and they're also making relationships with the adults in the program and having these really great adult mentors that they can go to for lots of different things. And we know, especially in Love Notes, those adult connections are really important. And so this just creates more healthy adult connections for the peer facilitator and for the youth. Next slide. So I did want to mention challenges of peer facilitation. Although we haven't really had a whole ton in ours, I do think that there are some considerations that you have to think about when you are talking about peer facilitation. One is making sure that the peer facilitators are properly prepared. And so again, we're really, really lucky in this program that the peer facilitators have a lot of skills in teaching and in handling a classroom that even some of our adult facilitators do not have. And they are really natural at it, so we haven't had to prepare them a whole lot. But if we were to take a youth who's gone through Love Notes who didn't have this background, we really would need to prepare them in a much different way. And so that's one of the things that we're thinking about right now, is how do we give them some of these skills that the teens that are currently peer facilitators in this teaching and learning program, they have been working for years on. How do we give them those skills in a short amount of time? So they might not really have the confidence in facilitation at first. And so like helping them and supporting them through that is really an important part of the process. The boundaries with peers is also a little bit tricky because they are, of course, peers. And so they might have friends in the class, or they might have different relationships with these students in the class. And so really talking through those boundaries with them and talking through what that looks like. And so one of the things that we do is at the end of every day when we're facilitating, we do a check-in to just see how things went, if there were any questions or if there were any issues that came up that they needed more support with. Another thing that might be a challenge is oversharing. And so typically, you know, we want them to share to engage the students in it, but we don't want them to also overshare in ways that might put them at risk for what they're sharing, or might not be appropriate for the group at the time. But that one, again, we haven't had too many problems with this, but these are all challenges that you might want to be prepared for. Limited perspective. So if they are young and they're just starting to date now, they might not have a lot of perspective on dating and what that looks like. However, again, this hasn't really been a problem. It, in some ways, is a positive thing because they're leaning on the Love Notes curriculum instead of their experiences to answer questions. So that can be like a double-edged sword, I guess. Peer disclosures. So this is one that we've talked a lot about with our peer facilitators recently. They had concerns about what to do if one of the youth in the program discloses something to them that might need to be passed on to an adult, and how to handle the confidentiality of that while also keeping safety. And so really talking to them and preparing them for those types of things, because again, we're talking about really difficult subjects. And so you might have a youth that would come to you and say some things, and really making sure that they are prepared for how to handle that in a way that is helpful to them, but also helpful to the youth involved. Another one is role clarity. And so just making sure that they understand their role and the role of the other facilitator that they might be working with and how they're going to work together. We talk about sharing the power in the room, or making sure that they're equals in the room, that it's not that the adult facilitator is the one that's taking the lead and the peer facilitator is just helping them. They're really like co-facilitating, and this is a venture where they both have equal standing within the room. And so that's really, really important to elevate the peer facilitators in that way. Okay, next slide, please. So I also wanted to talk and give you some other quotes that our peer facilitators have said, and really just what an impact it is on them having this experience. So one of them said, being a peer facilitator in Love Notes has allowed me to reflect on myself while learning about what others my age think about relationships. It's a fun way to teach and learn new things as well as teach them. And I have really noticed such an impact in what happens with the peer facilitators through the course of facilitation. So when I first meet them, when I am facilitating Love Notes with them, or when they're first beginning, a lot of times I have noticed that they're maybe a little bit shy, or they're not really, they don't have the confidence. And then over the time of them peer facilitating and in being in this leadership role and being empowered in this way, I really get to see them blossom and change into these like beautiful young adults that and really rise to what we knew that they had in them. That's really the thing, is that we're giving them an opportunity to rise to their expectations. Next slide. I do want to share some data with you on peer facilitation, and this is observation scores. So part of our grant is that each facilitator is observed for at least 2 lessons. And I wanted to share because I think it's easy to discount peer facilitators or be concerned that peer facilitators are not going to be able to handle the curriculum in the same way. And what our observation scores are really showing is that on a whole, peer facilitators are actually scoring higher than non-peer facilitators on most of our facilitation skills. So level of enthusiasm, the knowledge of the program, effectively addressing questions and concerns. In that one, they really scored quite a bit higher than the adults in the room. Rapport and communication with participants, and poise and confidence. It just really shows that that empowering these young people to be in these leadership roles, like they really can rise to the occasion. Next slide. These are just some more observation scores specifically about facilitation management and group dynamics, and I'm not going to go into each one of them, but what's really important here is, again, the peer facilitators are scoring higher than the non-peer facilitators in all of these areas, which is just really phenomenal. And next slide. So this is the overall score from OPA. It's basically a way for us to round up like how well facilitators are doing. And so this is an overall score that we have to give. And as you can see, the overall score for peer facilitators is 4.8 on a 5.0 scale. So that's super, super high and super amazing. And our non-peer facilitators are still doing great with 4.4, but it just really shows what the peer facilitators can do. Next slide. So I would be amiss if I didn't also talk about some of the other youth voice and engagement things that we're doing, because the peer facilitators are so ingrained in our camp model that we're doing at the Y that I couldn't really tease them out. So with our camp model, we have peer facilitators also paired with our adult facilitators. And I want to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing. And this is kind of what Kay talked about with the art portion of what we're doing to implement. Next slide. So we came into Love Notes doing a camp model that U of L had done previously, which was 2 8-hour days of programming. And so what happens with this is that they had really great retention rates because you have 2 days of programming versus 13 weeks or something like that that you would do over time. And so we wanted to keep those retention rates and those completion rates, but we also saw a need for more youth voice in processing of the content. And so what we decided to do is go to more of a 1-week camp model. So we meet during the breaks in school. So spring break, fall break, winter break, summer break, and we have 3 to 4 hours of Love Notes in the morning, followed by 3 to 4 hours of creative expression in the afternoon, where they're really diving a little bit deeper into the Love Notes curriculum through creativity. And so I'm going to talk a lot about how we do that on the next couple of slides and share some information with you. So we're very, very lucky to have a Best Buy Teen Tech Center in one of our YMCAs, and this is the YMCA that we hold these camps on in. And so the Teen Tech Center is basically it has all different kinds of technology in it that allows teens to come in and create. So there's music production, filmmaking, podcasting. There's all kinds of computers in there to do social media and other kinds of design. And it really helps, the idea is that it helps to bridge the digital divide in areas of need in the communities. So that's what the Best Buy Teen Tech Center is. We use the Best Buy Teen Tech Center in the afternoon to create around the themes of Love Notes. And so I'm going to share a little bit about that in the next couple of slides. So what we've found is by allowing youth to create in the afternoon, they are really able to connect to each other in a non-classroom setting. So it builds these really, really great connections within the camp between the teams. But more than that, it also activates different learning styles. We all know that people learn differently. And so by allowing them to really dive a little bit deeper through creating a podcast or through creating a song in the studio or creating a video, we're really allowing them to process the learning that they're doing in a educational way, but also in a like social emotional way. So they're also able to process it through like an emotional processing way as well. It really adds to our youth voice. So we take what the youth create and we put it out there in the community through our social media. We have the podcast is on Apple and Spotify. And so we really are trying to elevate the youth voice through this. We also have a really great youth engagement through this model. And so I really kind of want to highlight the youth engagement. On the next slide, I can talk more about that. But basically, we've had 12 students come back to camp again. And so I have been in youth development for a little over 10 years. And when working with evidence-based programs, I don't see a lot of people repeating this. And so the fact that we've had 12 repeat the program, so they repeat Love Notes and they repeat the time in the Teen Tech Center, it really speaks to how this model is engaging the youth. We've had one person attend 4 of our camps. So she attended the whole week 4 times. And we've had 2 campers attend 4 times, sorry, not just 1 person. And we had 1 camper attend 3 times and 9 attended 2 times. So it's really, really just shows just the engagement of the youth in this program. Next slide. This is just some demographics about how what our population of youth is for the Teen Vibe camps, which I also want to speak to that real quick because I didn't talk about that early on. We got some feedback from the teens that they didn't understand what they were coming to when we called it a Love Notes camp. And so we remarketed it based on their feedback to Teen Vibe camps featuring the Love Notes curriculum and the Best Buy Teen Tech Center. And so that's how we kind of market it. And so our Teen Vibe Camps, this is the general youth demographic. I'm not going to go over all of it, but it is very inclusive and of our community. So this is a comparison model of the Teen Vibe Camp scores versus other camps or other models that we're using within our program. And so what you see on this slide is that the fidelity score, the quality score, and the attendance rate are all higher than the other models that we're using in our delivery of Love Notes, and they are higher in a statistically significant way. So it really is showing really great results for our Teen Vibe Camps. I have quite a few data slides just on this because it really is just really amazing to me how well the Teen Vibe Camps are doing and how impactful they are. So I'm just going to highlight some just a little bit of things on these. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one of the things that we do with the Teen Vibe Camps is we ask them to do a retrospective survey for the developmental assets, and for the positive values, they did show a significant growth in 6 out of the 7 questions, and it just is really amazing to me that is helping with that. So that the Teen Vibe Camp is showing these developmental assets and increases in that. So on the next slide, you'll also see that it is showing increases in the empowerment scale on the developmental assets, specifically around the questions, adults in my town or city made me feel important, and adults in my town or city listen to what I have to say. And that one is especially close to my heart because we know that Love Notes is about connecting them to their trusted adult their trusted adult connection, sorry. And so part of what our camp is doing is helping them feel more connected and feel like adults in town care about them. And so that's super important. Next slide. So on the positive identity, again with the developmental assets, we are seeing some statistically significant increases in the questions. When I'm an adult, I'm sure I will have a good life. And on the whole, I like myself. And this just warms my heart that we're seeing an increase of youth feeling like they are going to have a positive life and that they feel good about who they are. Next slide. We also see the statistically significant increases in their knowledge. And so this is what this scale is showing. This is the pre and post surveys, and it's showing the increases there. And so in every scale, there's statistical significance, but specifically around birth control, and I feel confident in educating my friends and peers about sexual health, which I think is really fantastic. Next one. And again, this is the Love Notes key concepts. And so the one on here that we're really seeing a large statistical growth on is knowing how to make a good relationship last. And if that doesn't sum up what I feel like Love Notes is about, I don't know what does. So the next slide just shows the favorite parts of camp for the youth, and the highest percentage is the great people. And then they also said the Teen Tech Center activities are really impactful for them in the freedom and environment of learning. The next slide, we're really just I wanted to pull out some quotes from some of our youth. Everyone was helpful and didn't judge. I liked how they tried to understand you without a lecture. They make me important. It helped me be confident about myself, and they made me feel like me. I just love hearing that feedback from the teens and seeing that it really is making an impact for them on an individual scale. Like, we're making impacts with each individual. Next slide. So we've had a lot of really great impact. We've seen a lot of great things, not only from the peer facilitation model, but from this camp model as well. And so we really want to expand to other schools and programs. And so we're looking at different ways that we can equip peer facilitators, even if they're not in this teaching and learning program. In fact, before the presentation, I was talking to Kay a little bit about working with one of our local colleges and how they're wanting to train the residence advisors in their dorms to give this give Love Notes curriculum to the students at their school through the residence halls. And I just think that that's a great way to do it as well. We're also looking at leaders in training and ways to give some of the youth that have been multiple times to camps or who are really interested in it, but maybe don't have all the skill set yet or the maturity yet to be a peer facilitator, to give them leadership opportunities while we're presenting and facilitating that maybe aren't full on peer facilitators. And then we're also looking at the idea of doing team ambassadors, because if we definitely want to capitalize on the youth engagement and how they're feeling about the program. And so that's kind of where we're going next. And I was hoping to leave some opportunities for questions and comments. Kay, I don't know what the question box looks like.
Excuse me. Could this program help, one, develop appropriate gender norms, and two, prevent suicidal ideation and behavior?
So, Kate, you might want to speak to that, because I think that, is that asking more about Love Notes, or is that asking about the peer facilitators?
Yeah, I think it's more about Love Notes, and we'll answer this question offline because it's not really in the realm of this today. But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And that would be, Kelley, what do you wish you knew then that you know now about starting peer facilitation program?
That's a good question. I think I just wish I had a model to look at. Like, we kind of created this model on the go with the teacher and tried to figure out how to get good supports and how to create the camp model and things like that. And so I wish I had another program to look at that was using peer facilitators in this way. I also wish I had maybe just started it sooner, to be honest, because it's such a positive experience. I wish we had started it at the very beginning of our grant instead of, 8 months, 9 months in, or whatever that we were.
So for those of you in the listening audience, in your handout section of your dashboard is something called Team Vibe Socials, and there are QR codes that you can see the work that the young people have put together. So question from Kathy says, did I hear that you teach some students at school and some students at the Y?
Yes, that's correct. So our model was really trying to look at community engagement. And so we teach students at the Y in like a camp model when schools are on break. And so that camp model happens at the schools. We are on break at the Ys. So spring break, fall break, winter break. And then we also teach in the school system. The seniors will teach the freshmen at the high school level. Okay.
And so when you talk about how to train your peer trainers, it sounds like you would take them through a variety. They all take the Love Notes program as students. And then what? You have a program facilitation. What are the other steps?
So we are lucky because we are located here in Louisville, where Carol Frame and Anita Barbie, who I think people may or may not know from other webinars, but Carol Frame is actually, she is a Love Notes trainer. And so she comes in and does a day after they've gone through Love Notes, she does a day training on facilitating it. And so we do a training on peer facilitation and what that looks like, just facilitation skills, and how that's different from teaching. We do a training on trauma-informed care, so what trauma responses might look like in the classroom when you see them. We talk a little bit about what might happen, what might make them triggered in the classroom, you know, which lessons we see a lot of that in. We do some of the difficult question scenarios. So we talk about difficult questions that you might get from a teen and how they might answer it. So give them some role playing options. And we also do a teach back. So each of the students gets a section of one of the lessons, and they co-facilitate it or facilitate it with us, and we're able to give them feedback as well as their peers are able to give them feedback.
Okay, so there's not one, you do a variety of things. Someone asked, are peer facilitators trained through the facilitator trained by Dibble? So the youth facilitators are being trained by someone who's been trained by Dibble to train facilitators. So
yeah.
It isn't people who've just been trained to teach the program. We have a training of trainers, and if you're interested in that, we can give you that information. But you know, training people to train other people is, you know, another step up and has some special skills there.
Yes.
Do you interview the youth? I'm assuming this is like for your Y part. Are you somehow vetting the youth, or do you just let them all come through? You know, whoever wants to come, and how do you recruit the youth to those YMCA sessions?
So it's a free session and it's open to all youth. So some of the ways that we have recruited that have been really successful is we have engaged with our local government, so our Metro Council members, and have sent it to the Metro Council members within our districts that we're targeting, and they have sent it out to youth development organizations in their district, and they have referred youth to our camps. We now have kind of a name for ourselves, and so the teen vibe camps are something that youth are telling youth about, and so they're recruiting youth for it. We also recruit just through the normal YMCA social media, things like that, and we recruit from other YMCA teen programs. So we have other programs that we're running for teens at the YMCA, including Black Achievers, leaders in training, things like that. And so we are recruiting from those groups as well.
So do you know of any other Ys or other organizations that are doing this peer facilitation model?
I know of other Ys that are doing peer facilitation in other programs, but not necessarily Love Notes. I had not heard about other groups doing peer facilitation with Love Notes until recently, Kay, and we talked about this before, but there was a paper that went out with the Dibble newsletter recently that talked about peer facilitators in a college setting that were doing some Love Notes curriculum, not the full curriculum, but some of the Love Notes curriculum, and the impact that it had on the peer facilitators. And so that was an interesting article.
Right, we're getting more and more interest in peer facilitation. As you're doing it, as you said, at a university, they did it with their family life students, but they just taught 4 lessons to their peers. There was a group in Cleveland who were highly scripted in Relationship Smarts Plus. An adult was in the room, and they had like, I think, 3 or 4 kids teaching the program, adult in the back. That went well. So there's a variety of methods, and I'm sure there's more out there amongst you who have peer ideas. And so you're teaching these in schools in a health class, correct?
Yes.
Not any other class.
Right now in health classes with this model. Now some of our other schools are doing it. We have a school here in our county who it's a school for all parenting youth parenting students. And so students who are pregnant or parenting young moms. And so everyone in that school is getting Love Notes.
It's that's a great application. And I hope you're adding the parts about for young parents into that.
They are.
Good. So what is the gender makeup of your facilitator group? Mostly girls, mostly guys, mostly whatever?
So we have a lot of female peer facilitators. We do have a couple of, I would call them young adult facilitators or near peer facilitators that are men, and they really help balance that out and are also facilitating at these camps. But the school, that program in the school has been mostly female, and so that our peer facilitators are mostly female at this point. But the camps they skew a little female. Let me go back and look.
It didn't look like, it looked like the, like it was.
It's pretty close. They skew, keep going. They skew a little female, but there's a large group of male, non-binary, and gender fluid as well.
So to me, Kelley, what is brilliant about your program is you're finding young people who already want to teach. So what Kelley did was to go to her local school district to Career and Technical Education, CTE, and they have a teaching academy. So these kids start in the 9th grade how to be a teacher, and they're still taking math and science and history, but they're doing specialized classes to get them into training and to teaching. And so the peer educators, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kelley, are primarily seniors in this program who've been through 4 years of saying, I want to be a teacher. No, I really, really want to be a teacher. So if you're out in the, listening audience, your job is to type in the name of your school district and the following words, career and technical education, training of teachers, or teacher training, or whatever, and see if there's a program like this. Because I'm sure that what the teachers were happy about when Kelley showed up is she didn't just say, well, have them come on over and we'll just help them out. We'll just open up my shoebox and we'll help them. She had a program that had lesson plans, was well laid out of interest to these young people. She wasn't teaching them, underwater basket weaving, although I think that's really fascinating myself. But, she came up with a program that was relevant to the kids, that was educationally appropriate, and it fit into their model that they had to do. And so I'm sure now, Kelley, if you said, I'm pulling out, I'm not going to do this anymore, that those teachers over at the Teacher Academy would be super sad, because you've been providing relevant curriculum and experience and helping, these kids are really feeling useful. So I would, for those of you in the audience, go run out and see what your district's doing for teacher education in their career and technical education field. So when you collected the data, did your data collection instruments come from Love Notes, or did you create them in-house, or did your grant give them to you?
Good question. So our data collection goes through, because of our grant, we have a partner with IUS, so Indiana University Southeast, and they, the Applied Research and Education Center, they are the ones who are doing our data collection, and they created the pre and post surveys, as well as the retroactive survey for the camps. And so I believe that they looked at the stuff that's provided by Dibble, as well as the stuff that U of L was using to create this, but they did create it.
Right. So our position on pre and post is we love them. For sure, we love them. But we don't put one in the curriculum because people want to solve different problems. Sometimes people are looking at Love Notes for substance abuse. Sometimes they're looking at Love Notes for violence prevention. Sometimes they're looking at it for pregnancy prevention. And so rather than give you like a bucket of possible pre and posts, it's better if you contact us and say, I'm interested in this aspect, and we'll see what we have in our little shoebox here in Dibble Land. And sometimes if you're applying for a grant, they will have you, as they did for Kelley, have you partner with an evaluation group that can help you with these things and really create a pre and a post that tests what you want to see. And I appreciate what was new to me, Kelley. I'm a big fan of the Search Institute's 40 assets. It's a little passe now, you don't see it very much, but it's really integral to the YMCA's approach, and I think all youth development. And so, I think that was brilliant to ask those kids about that. Okay, another question comes in. How would you modify what you're doing for an after-school program?
So I think if I were doing it for an after-school program, it depends. Like, you could do it once a week, or you could do it over a period of time. I find that for retention and completion, sometimes the shorter amount of time that you have, the better that you have for retention and completion. And so it might be helpful to do it like 4 days a week until it's completed. So that might be 3 or 4 days. And then I would, if I wanted to do kind of that artistic model of having them respond, we have talked about doing a mobile kit that would have some podcasting stuff, or maybe some iPads in it, where they could create podcasts, through the iPad, because you can create podcasts with your phone now, so it's super easy. They could also do music and things like that through an iPad. They could do social media and graphics through an iPad. And so, like, creating ways for them to still engage in a different way, I think is really important, and really helps them digest the material in a different way, in a different learning style.
That sounds great. Yeah, I was going to say, if you're thinking about applying for the upcoming teen pregnancy prevention grants, that could be in your budget, right? We want to get the kids here, and we want to give them art. Now, Kelley's an art therapist, not surprising. Kelley loves art. We have another client in Los Angeles who has access to an adventure ropes course in an outdoor setting. And so what they do is they do love notes, and then let's go climb a rope, let's go climb a tree. And so it's not, art is wonderful, and I think it's amazing, and that's great, but it doesn't have to be art. It could be something else that is attractive to young people that maybe you have access to that you wouldn't others. But that's a great idea, Kelley, to do a mobile, you don't have to have a Best Buy Teen Tech Center. You can have an iPad and a couple of earplugs and, go to on it. How can parents be engaged in this process to improve its effectiveness? Well, let me start with this, and that is, it's very effective because every lesson has a trusted adult activity. Now, sometimes these very at-risk young people who are leading really challenging lives, don't have a parent that's their trusted adult. Their trusted adult might be Kelley, probably. But if you have an adult, most and you have a good relationship with them, most of the young people will complete those trusted adult activities with their parent. And it is data shown overwhelmingly that it's a very protective aspect to have, is to include adults in it, not in a way that the kids feel like they're being judged or, hampered, but just a way to share and connect with their adults.
Yeah, and I would add that we have engaged our community advisory committee in some of this work too. And although many of them are parents, and so they have created podcasts, they've created other things as well alongside the youth, or in parallel to the youth. But one of the things that our youth have talked about, and we just haven't been able to make it happen yet, but to do interviews on the podcast with their parents, or to do interviews of like what they wish their parents had know about relationships today and things like that. And so a lot of the podcasting and a lot of the information that they put out there is more along the lines of what they want their parents to know. And so they are including their parents in this in a kind of different way. So yeah, it definitely is important.
Okay, well, last question, then we're going to wrap it up. Could a sophomore or junior be a facilitator, do you think, or seniors the best?
So we're using seniors because of what is needed for the school. So for them to graduate, they're doing the field hours the senior year. And so it really makes sense for us to work with the seniors. I think that a junior or a sophomore with the right skill set could probably step in and do it. I think you might have to prep them a lot more if they haven't gone through the skill set that we have. We've been lucky to work with. You might have to have more prep or more support for them, especially if the peers end up being older than them.
All righty, so if you have other questions, write them in the box. We'll also be doing a survey after this and we will get them answered. Thank you to OPA, thank you to OPA, so thank you. Thank you for joining us today. This will be archived in the next couple of days, well, maybe by early next week, so you can see it along with the slides and Kelley's handouts. Next month, lots of people have questions about cohabitation. This is one place where the research has been developing over time. And we're excited that we have two esteemed researchers in the field, Scott Stanley and Galena Rhodes with us on March 8th. So we hope to see you all here. Thank you, Kelley. Thank you all, and enjoy Valentine's Day. Isn't it our day? Take care. Bye-bye.